Truestrike slowly closed Lunsu's eyes. She lay at the end of a collapsed corridor. Half a dozen pirate corpses lay before her. Twice as many black holes marked her armor. He felt so much in that moment. Sadness at losing a friend. Pride that she had left the world fighting to the end. Bitter rage directed at the enemy. But above all, determination. We will make them pay, he said quietly, but clearly enough for all to hear. What remained of his cadet squad stood in the corridor. Lunsu had been guarding the rear when the ceiling collapsed, splitting her from the team. They came back for her, but were too late. "We will, brother in fire," Trainer Conan said with quiet confidence as he placed a hand on Truestrike's shoulder. "Now we must go. The enemy is preparing another push." Despite that, Rekka did not move, his eyes locked on the cold form of his friend. "It's strange," he whispered. "I know she is gone, yet I don't want to leave her. I don't want to leave her alone again." "This isn't Lunsu," Conan said, looking at the cadet's body. "It's merely the shell she left behind." He squeezed Rekka's shoulder. "Now, you carry her in your memories. Honor her through your actions, and by keeping her memory alive." Rekka clenched his hands into fists. "That's not good enough." "It never is," Conan agreed, standing. "Now, stand up. Let's give those scum a memory so painful they will never forget it." Rekka rose, gave a last nod to his fallen friend, and joined the rest of the squad as they moved back to defensive positions. Rain washed the dust from the collapsed hallway. Truestrike looked up and grimaced. A lone rain cloud passed over the city, while rays of sunshine still reached them from a distance. It felt wrong. A battle this brutal, this bitter, demanded a storm. But the universe cared little for such things. To its indifferent eyes, the day when WILD JADE bled and burned was perfect for a mostly sunny afternoon with temporary rain. They moved up the street, staying in cover. They were now in the eastern quarter, one of the few regions where they still held significant ground outside the energy shield protecting the city center. Cadets were being sent to reinforce local security and auxilia cadres, joined by detachments from other units to bolster the line. "Any news about Commander Truestrike?" Erakau asked the trainer. "Yes, news came down not long ago. She is finally awake and is slowly taking back command from Chassel no Edel," Conan replied. "I told you she would wake up." "Never doubted her," Rekka said loudly, though there was little fire in his words. The fact was, the situation was dire. City walls had been breached, the sky was in enemy hands, but there was still hope. After the pirate warlord fled the field, the attacks became more disorganized. It was clear to all this wasn't a singular force, but an alliance of a dozen different pirate and mercenary groups. "I'm surprised the enemy continues these pushes despite the losses we inflict," Wildenet commented, walking around the burnt wreck of an enemy transport. "They are more chaotic than most orcs I fought," Conan agreed. "They lack a singular leader or even a singular goal. Some came for slaves, others for spoils, and some simply to destroy us. He shook his head. Yet despite that lack of organization, they are clever. Some of them are trainer. Truestrike countered. There is a drastic difference in skill and equipment quality between the groups. That's why we have problems countering them. When they attack, we have no idea what type of enemy we will face. Perceptive as always, Reka. Conan chuckled. Alright, this is the building. He pointed at a tall residential structure, half of its mushroom-like roof missing. We should have a good overlook of the road. They moved in formation, covering one another as they approached the door. As they got close, a human voice cackled over the comnet. Friendlies! Friendlies! A militia member opened the doors and ushered them in. Inside! Quickly! The squad moved inside and stopped in the corridor. Reka helped the human close the door and barricade it again. He was just a kid, no more than 17 Terran years old. He wore a patchwork of old guard and Gwivisa equipment, including a lasgun instead of proper pulse rifle. Thank the goddess you are here, the young man said, looking over the handful of fire warriors and pausing. Is that all you could send? This is all that was sent for now, Conan explained. With comms jammed and the enemy targeting transmission drones, communications have become more challenging. Other cadets are moving to reinforce positions and more units are on the way. Well, let's hope they arrive quickly, because we don't have the firepower to take out a beetle, the militiaman said plainly. Truestrike's blood ran cold. Beetle was the designation for a massive troop transport used to deploy humanoid drones onto the battlefield. They were slow and had a limited firing arc, but they had heavy armor and persistent enough to punch through buildings with their bulk. They want to get to the administration district, Conan said, nodding. Seems they want to go in the straight line. He let out a breath. What forces accompany the beetle? We've seen at least 5 shellback tanks and a dozen chicken walkers. A bunch of infantry, lots of matchstick drones and a mix of living troops, he reported. No hornets, thankfully. Haven't seen them in a while. Understood. We'll find a way to destroy them. Lead the way, Conan said, and the militia nodded. As they climbed the stairs, the young man added, Oh, I'm Philip, by the way. A pleasure, Conan replied. Reka could tell he meant it. They reached the 3rd floor. More defenders were already in position. Security teams, Tarelian militia, human volunteers, even a riot team. As expected, heavy weapons were scarce. 2 missile launchers and a pair of flamers were all they had. His team carried only 1 rail rifle, and it was in Erakau's hands. While Conan moved to speak with the leaders of local units, Truestrike stepped to the window and scanned for their target. He didn't have to look far. The massive beetle was no more than 200 meters away, pushing through rubble and the wrecks of civilian vehicles, clearing a path for the column behind it. The beetle was without a doubt the largest ground vehicle the pirates had deployed, only eclipsed in size by Rancor. He could see the vehicles following it. 5 shellbacks, the pirates' most common hover tank. Their unusual design featured anti-infantry cannons mounted on arm-like pylons protruding from the hull and a missile rack on the lower plating. Chicken walkers flanked the column, laughable imitations of Imperial sentinels. Clumsy, lightly armored and armed, but still dangerous. A dense block of matchstick drones marched in formation, the most numerous artificial soldiers on the field. Finally, there were the troops. He activated the integrated binoculars for a closer look. Mixed group, he muttered. They don't act like they belong to the same force. There were Trandoshans, humans, bulky crab-like aliens, strange felinid pirates, and several other humanoid species. They moved not as one unit, but as 4 different pirate bands that had agreed, temporarily, to attack together. Assessment? Golden Guardian asked as she walked up. We can't take the beetle head-on. This will have to be Kauyon all the way. Truestrike replied, eyes still on the street. The bigger problem is that the moment we strike, they will either retreat or call in air support. We need to overwhelm them, quickly and all at once. And I prefer to destroy the force completely. I doubt that's possible, one of the militiamen said, coming forward. We have 4 missiles left and 3 explosive charges. No way to take them all out at once. No, directly, no. A samurai agreed, then pointed at a building on the far side of the road. But that building isn't stable. Place 1 charge there and it will collapse, blocking the road. Not for a beetle, the militiaman countered. No, we will have to detonate it behind it, a samurai said, pointing at a few civilian wrecks. 1 charge there to explode under the beetle and ground it. 2nd charge at the damaged building. A disabled beetle and a collapsed building will box the rest of the pirates in. The remaining missiles, flamers and explosive charge should be more than enough to finish them off. And it's unlikely they will call an airstrike while they are still here. Conan agreed, walking closer. He spent a few moments studying the ground, the damaged building and the approaching enemy, then exchanged a few words with other commanders and nodded. Alright, as a samurai, your plan is approved. Sappers will place the charges. Everyone else, take your positions. Let's show those scum what it means to be a patient hunter. They obeyed, taking up firing positions alongside the security forces and militia. Reka held his pulse carbine close. He had plenty of ammunition, and more than enough grenades for his underslung launcher. He intended to use every one of them. Then the shadow fell over him, the massive shape of a beetle passing right beside the building. He could hear the mechanical clanging of matchstick drones, the hum of anti-grav engines of enemy tanks, the thudding steps of walkers, and even snatches of pirate conversation. His HUD translated the words into readable text. Stay in your line, Zagirian scum. Try anything, and you won't get a half-broken slave out of this. One pirate spat. Careful, friend. Your great leader isn't in the best shape, last I heard, and Duke Draxen is more than happy to take his place. A slaver chuckled. Your slaver Duke doesn't deserve to clean Ravak's claws. The pirate shot back. I've seen your Duke's forces move. You've only just entered the city. Too busy catching slaves from villages? Why waste precious time fighting through heavy defenses when there are idiots like you to do it for us? The slaver sneered. You little! The ground shook as the hidden explosive detonated. Soldiers in hiding sprang up and opened fire. Reka peeked out and fired an EMP grenade into the blocky formation of matchstick drones. The disc flew through, detonating in a sphere of sparks and light. Multiple robots collapsed, inert. He opened fire on the remaining enemies, then noticed something terrible. The beetle was still moving. One of its frontal guns was gone, but it was still alive. The explosive charge hadn't been enough. "Beetle operational!" someone shouted. "Missile launchers!" "No, missiles won't be enough," Conan barked. "We need the explosive charge." "I will grab it! I will— Ah!" Veldenet screamed as a crimson bolt took her left arm and sent her to the floor. "No!" Conan broke cover and ran to the fallen cadet when an explosion rocked the building and the floor collapsed beneath his feet. "No! No! No!" Reka shouted in fury and despair. "Oshivesa, help Veldenet! Esksa, grab the explosives! I'm going to the trainer!" Truestrike sprinted as crimson bolts stitched the air around him. He slid on his side and then dropped through the hole. His trainer was on the floor, a piece of shrapnel embedded in his side. He coughed. "No plan ever survives contact with the enemy," Conan muttered, a curse wrapped in a bitter joke. Reka reached him and winced. He had basic field medical training, and this wound looked bad. Thick, dark blue blood flowed from it. Critical organs and most likely an artery had been severed. You will be fine, trainer. We will get you to a medic," he said, the words more for himself than the man he tried to save. "Lies are unbecoming of you." Conan coughed, grunting as he removed his helmet. He was coughing blood. Shrapnel had punctured his lung. He ground his teeth. Is Golden Guardian alive?" he rasped. "Oshivesa?" Reka asked. "She is in shock, but she will live," his friend replied. "I have explosives," Esksa shouted. "The beetle is pushing further away." "Throw them here, cadet!" Conan shouted, summoning what little strength he had left. A second later, a bag of explosives fell near them. Reka reached out to grab it, but Conan seized his arm and shook his head. "No, this is my task," he said, forcing himself to stand and sliding the bag of explosives over his shoulder. "Your task is to lead what remains of your squad." Truestrike was stunned, opening his mouth, unsure what to say. "Blood of leadership runs through your veins, son of Ashenblade. And I've lost too many trainees today." Conan's eyes blazed with a true fire. "I will not lose even one more." With those words, Conan took off, sprinting at full speed, pain and blood in his lung ignored and pushed away as he charged the beetle. Truestrike's mind raced, but his new role forced his chaotic thoughts to freeze and crystallize into purpose. "Covering fire!" he roared. "Cover Conan!" Every gun opened up. A missile fired from the third floor tore one of the tanks apart. A light walker turned its guns on the trainer, only for Reka to launch a plasma grenade into its flank, blowing a leg off and sending the pathetic sentinel imitation crashing to the ground. The pirates noticed the trainer, but their attention was split among too many targets, and their overconfidence made them believe the mighty MTT was untouchable. Conan slid under the hovering vehicle, crawling beneath it. He found a humming exposed fin, part of the anti-grav system he suspected, and placed the charge directly on it. A serene smile spread across his face. Tauva were the last words Trainer Conan, the worthy sword, uttered before delivering the final killing blow. The great machine whined, buckled, and its left side generator detonated. The massive beast struggled to stay aloft for a single agonized moment before finally crashing to the ground, blocking the pirate's path completely. "Shit! The MTT is gone!" one of the pirates shouted. "Retreat! Retreat!" Riders started to run, tanks going full reverse and firing back at the ambushers. Reka wouldn't let them escape. "Second charge, now!" he roared as he sprayed the retreating pirates with pulse fire. A second explosion shook the ground and the building came crashing down. 2 tanks, 3 walkers, and well over a dozen raiders screamed in terror as they were crushed beneath the rubble. The remaining pirates spun around, only to see the defenders advancing on them. They were boxed in. "Kill them all! Fire at will!" Truestrike roared as he fired into the mass of pirates. They fired back, of course, but it wasn't enough. It's often said animals have 2 responses to danger: fight or flight, but that's not the whole truth. There is a third response: freeze. Most of the pirates froze. Their experience fighting militia and planetary defense forces in the Outer Rim proved useless against the cold brutality of the Firecast and their allies. Many huddled around the single surviving tank and 3 walkers, convinced those machines would save them. They were wrong. Erakau's ray rifle tore through the chicken walkers, each shot punching straight through cockpits and obliterating the pilots. Several anti-tank grenades finished off the tank, sending it crashing into the street. Some pirates attempted to charge the defenders and were met by a squad of furious Tarelians brandishing swords, hammers, and chain blades. Their lives were cut short by the sheer brutality of the reptilian warriors. The remaining pirates fled into a nearby building, only to find its far side collapsed. They were trapped. Just as Truestrike loaded another grenade into his launcher, a sentence he didn't expect pinged on his HUD. "We surrender! We surrender!" He blinked, then called out, "Cease fire!" All guns went silent. Reka peered at the ruined building where the enemies hid. A single pirate, a Zigerian slaver, stepped out with hands raised. "We surrender," he said, taking another step forward. "By Republic law, you must treat us humanely." The slaver added, a smirk failing to hide his contempt. "No matter what we did." Truestrike's blood ran cold. He straightened and walked up to a militiaman, eyes fixed on the slaver. He activated the basic translator in his helmet. "You surrender because of Republic law?" he asked. The slaver blinked, then nodded. "Yeah, that's right. I know your kind, Tau. You follow the rules. That's why I know, no matter how much you want to, you won't hurt me. Not if it threatens relations between your empire and the Republic." He chuckled darkly. Truestrike understood the logic and its fatal flaw. "You made a big mistake." His helmet translated his words as he put down his pulse carbine and quietly asked for a weapon held by the member of a militia. And what mistake would that be? The slaver asked, inching backward. You said it yourself. Truestrike leveled the muzzle of a flamer at the slaver. This is not the Republic. The torrent of liquid flame engulfed the slaver and then the building. The second flamer opened up, setting the structure and everyone inside ablaze. Burning, screaming bodies tumbled from the windows and ran into the streets. The rain ceased, as if in an act of divine cruelty. The handful of pirates rolled on the ground, trying to smolder the fire, consuming them. Inhuman screams and pleas for mercy filled the air. Philip, the young militiaman, raised his last gun, aiming at one of the burning figures. No! Reka stopped him. What? Philip asked, surprised by the command. I said no. Truestrike handed the flamer back to its user and picked up his pulse carbine. Your compassion will be wasted on these scum. He spat, eyes locked on the burnt slavers, twitching in pain. Their lifespan is measured in moments. His voice was like a cold plasma. Let them die in this pain. The defenders shouldered their weapons and moved on. There were more skirmishes to win, more pushes to smash. Soon, only the hungry crackle of a flame and a single fading cry could be heard on the ruined street. She floated inside the healing sphere, eyes darting from one point of a strategic display to another. She tried to maintain a steady breathing rhythm through the mask, but it was nearly impossible. She was a chasseur, a warrior and a leader. She led from the front. She led by example. And now, she was stuck here, in a healing sphere, away from the front line, away from her comrades and troops. So many were already gone. Zahandur and Skalgard were dead. Zelenko was critically wounded. Of the Gwevesa commanders, only Seriegov remained in a good shape. While she was unconscious, he and Noedel had held the city defense in her stead. She hoped she would get a chance to thank them personally. The enemy has redoubled their efforts to break through our defenses near the military airfield, Vesava informed. Lines near the factory district report growing casualties. Another push was repulsed near the administration zone. An amphibious assault has been stopped by Commissar Seriegov.
I see. Send units to reinforce. What of the military district?
She asked.
Our units are holding, but commanders do not believe they will be able to do so for long.
The drone responded. Truestrike let out a sigh of defeat. The patrol fleet was so close, and yet so far away. If they were lucky, they would find a burning city, pirates plundering everything of value while stepping over the bodies of the dead defenders. For now, her forces were holding, inflicting significant casualties. But as they were forced to give ground, the enemy had to sacrifice more and more manpower.
Their pushes seem less frequent.
She noted.
Indeed, Chasseur. It appears only a part of overall invasion is focused on our annihilation. Most are redirecting their efforts toward looting and breaking into shelters to enslave civilians.
The drone replied, its tone carrying a note of sorrow.
On that note, we have confirmation that Shelter B7 has been breached and civilians enslaved. Pirates are attempting to breach another 8 shelters.
That's a 10th since they breached the city walls.
Truestrike cursed.
How many civilians?
By our estimates, at least 5,000 in the city alone. Data on villages outside the city is incomplete, but my estimate puts it around 1,000.
6,000 total?
Truestrike gritted her teeth.
18% of the population enslaved under my watch.
She would cry if it would help, but now was not the time. She focused instead on redirecting units and planning for the worst case scenario.
If our defensive lines are breached, we will split our forces into 2 pockets of resistance. One here, around the command spire, the other around the administration district, where the largest shelters are, and more than half the city's population resides. If everything falls, we will hold in those 2 zones. Perhaps one will endure long enough for reinforcements to arrive.
She was about to finalize the plan when Vesava perked up.
Commander, Crude Huntress Vashk and her son, Fun, request an audience. They carry a critical message from Master Shaper Zahrud.
The drone reported. Truestrike blinked and nodded, hoping for good news.
Very well, let them in.
Moments later, 2 familiar Krut entered the room. Both bore signs of battle, Vashk with a bloodied beak, Thun small and eye-wide with bloodied claws. Curiously, they were accompanied by a Krut hawk perched on the adolescent's shoulder. The huntress bowed her head in respect.
Welcome, friends.
Truestrike said, bowing as best she could.
You bring news from Master Shaper Zahrud?
We do, Vashk replied, glancing at her son.
What? Master Shaper gathered hunting parties, all he could. They are ready to strike. They will strike soon.
The adolescent Krut said. He pointed at the crook hawk perched on his shoulder.
Ask told me.
Truestrike blinked, noting with a mix of surprise and curiosity that the beast on the boy's shoulder, though not fully sapient, could communicate.
It took time, lots of time. Hunter packs scattered across the world. Some very far, some very near. Took time to gather, to scout our enemies. Now, we are ready.
The boy continued.
Called for help with Fung's eclipse. Allies are coming. We'll be in system soon. We will strike when...
Wait! Stop!
Truestrike interrupted, leaning forward.
Who is coming? Which allies?
Fun tilted his head, uncertain. Vashk stepped in to clarify.
Master Shaper ordered our shamans to call for help. A song, a call to all who would hear. An old ally answered, one with whom we have hunted before. The Lady of Golden Thorns is coming, with a herald as her steed.
She announced.
Who? Name? Please tell me.
Truestrike pressed, hope sharpening her voice. The Krut's quills twitched as she spoke.
Rogue trader, allied to the Tau. House Blackthorn. Francesca is her name. Herald of Profit, her ship.
For a few long seconds, Truestrike was stunned. Then a victorious smile spread across her face, and the fire reignited in her spirit.
Then our situation isn't as dire as I thought.
She laughed.
I will send messenger drones to the Springboard base immediately.
Springboard base knows already,
Foon said.
Master Shaper is in contact with them. They will strike alongside us when the Herald enters the system. The enemy thinks they have trapped you, but they have trapped themselves.
The adolescent Kroot laughed, sharp and full of triumph.
Tonight, we shall feast on their marrow.
That you will, my crew ally.
Truestrike said, nodding firmly. She turned to her drone.
Vesava, call my medics. I demand to be pulled out of the sphere. I will not miss the final battle.
Ravax roared, slamming both hands onto the whole table in frustration. His new cybernetic right arm dented the metal beneath it. He scowled, staring at the mechanical limb, the proof of his defeat, his shame. Truestrike, that blue-skinned whore, took his arm. She would pay. Scorekeeper as his witness, she would pay. Roaring won't solve our situation, Ravax. Wrozak said, his hologram flickering as he shook his head. The facts are simple. Most of our allies aren't interested in destroying the Tau. They came for spoils and slaves. There is plenty of both in the parts of the city we've already captured. You won't convince them to push deeper. Ravax felt his teeth grind to dust in frustration. So close yet so far. What about our forces? Can't we mount a concentrated assault? He demanded. Their airfield is a weak point. Strike through there, and we can shatter their lines. It's also guarded by some of their more elite units. Wrozak countered, shaking his head. Face it, Ravax. We've taken heavy losses. 1,000 B1s were destroyed in the bridge detonation alone. My presence in the western camp is what's keeping the forces here from collapsing. He paused. Our boys have been fighting for hours. 4 hours of constant combat is brutal, and those Tau aren't simple opponents. He glanced at his warlord's new arm. As you found out, the hard way. Mind your tongue, Wrozak, or you will lose it. Wrozak warned, growling. Ugh, please, Ravax. That kind of threat doesn't work on me. The old Trandoshan sneered, disappointed. Besides, everyone saw you retreat from the battlefield. Mighty Ravax the Red and his Rancor forced to retreat. He shook his head. That never happened before. You killed Jedi with Rancor, and now, facing the Tau, you lost. Wrozak said pointedly, eyeing Ravax's new cybernetic arm again. You've already suffered a massive blow to your reputation. And didn't he know it? The infamy of the Rancor had never been unfounded. Not once had Ravax been bested in battle while piloting his creation, be it beast, vehicle, man, or even Jedi. The very sight of Rancor shattered enemy morale. But the Tau not only didn't break, they were ready to face a foe of this caliber. Ravax looked up at his beloved Rancor. Engineers were finally finishing field repairs. The cockpit hull, made by Truestrike's shimmering blade, a ludicrously upscaled version of a Jedi lightsaber that had cut off his right arm, was patched. He winced at the memory. The controls for the right arm of the Rancor were fried, leaving him disarmed when the Tau tank destroyed the plasma obliterator on Rancor's left arm. Now it had been replaced by another massive claw. Not ideal, but good enough for now. The legs had taken heavy damage. He had barely managed to retreat to the camp. Rancor would need a total overhaul before it could stand proud and tall in battle once more. "The longer we fight them," he muttered quietly, "the more I believe the tales of horrors from their home galaxy." He glanced at Wrozak. How else could they be prepared to face something like Rancor? "It seems their stories aren't just for show," Wrozak agreed, rubbing his chin. "Taking the job from zero was a mistake." "Perhaps," Ravax growled, taking a deep breath. "I will take an appropriate amount of his flesh for lying to me." He straightened up. "My new arm works. Rancor's field repairs are done. I intend to lead one final attack against them. We'll gather forces here and..." A strange sound cut him off, and Wrozak turned away, frowning. Ravax furrowed his brow. "What was that?" "I don't..." Wrozak began, but another sound reached Ravax's ears, this one coming from outside. He lacked the words to describe it. It was a song, a screech, and clicking of beaks all at once, and it came from the forest. It was eagerness, hunger, and bloodlust coming from hundreds of throats. "What in the name of Scorekeeper is that?" Ravax demanded, scanning the tree line. I don't know, boss," one of the pirates muttered, lifting his rifle. But I don't like it." "Well, don't stand there like an idiot. Gather some volunteers and check it out!" Ravax barked, then looked back at Wrozak, whose alarm mirrored his own. "Any idea what the hell is happening?" "No, I never..." Wrozak began, but his eyes widened in sheer shock. "What in the kark is that thing?" Before Ravax could ask, a bone-shattering roar tore through the air, accompanied by the sound of snapping trees. He turned and froze. A monster, a two-legged, flightless avian, burst through the tree line and bellowed. Its size alone rivaled Rancor. And it wasn't alone. Dozens upon dozens of avian warriors and beaked beasts surged from the forest, screeching and roaring as they charged the camp with wild, bloodthirsty abandon. Ravax's mind raced, naming the species before his thoughts even formed fully. Krut. The same primitive barbarians the Tau wielded as allies. Barely above animals, dismissed as nothing more than an irritation after his scouts and patrols had eradicated several of their hunting parties. Now faced with a literal wave of angry beaks and black, hungry eyes, his dismissive arrogance evaporated. Most of his forces were still stuck in the city. They didn't have enough guns to stop this charge. The situation was beyond dire. "Enemy attack! Recall all forces to defend the landing zones!" Ravax barked, trying to mask the panic rising in his throat.
We need air support! All gunships move to reinforce the landing zones! They are here too!
Wrozak shouted, fear unmistakable in his voice.
By the scorekeeper, there are hundreds of them!
Ravax ignored him and sprinted towards Rancor. If he was to face this horde, he would do so from the safety of his mighty machine. Despite the damage it had taken, Rancor reacted quickly, lowering the ascension line and opening the cockpit. Faster than ever, Ravax leapt into the seat. His new mechanical arm felt heavy, awkward, a constant reminder of his earlier defeat. But that was a worry for later.
Rancor, respond! Emergency startup!
He roared, gripping the controls with a ferocity only matched by the chaos surging towards him.
Rancor responding. Emergency startup engaged.
The machine voice boomed as systems powered up.
Warning. Main reactor damaged. Shields inactive. Shield reactor critically damaged. Armor integrity 83%. Structural integrity 77%. Significant damage to legs. Several systems inactive. Ammunition at 90%. Both claws ready. Heavy flamer fully loaded. Missile rack missing. Systems not at nominal level.
Ravax's eyes narrowed.
I understand, Rancor. Accept your damaged state. You fight now!
Compliance pilot. Ready for slaughter.
The war engine responded, a note of eager malice returning to its tone. Rancor snapped its claws in challenge and advanced to meet the charging beast and the horde of savages. Hundreds of avian barbarians surged towards the camp, screeching and shrieking while guards opened fire. Ship cannons roared, cutting into the mass of beaks, but the aliens returned fire with strange, musket-like weapons. Ravak's focus remained on the beast. The monster broke through the guard line, barreling toward Rancor. With a roar, he swung his new claw arm, slamming metal against flesh. The creature skidded sideways, momentum partially absorbed by Rancor, but the beast remained standing. A dark smile crossed Ravak's face. Finally, a worthy prey. Then his comb crackled to life. A voice of Sazak, bridge officer on Marrow Drinker, reached his ears. His lieutenant was clearly in distress.
Boss, it's bad, really bad.
Almost all landing zones are under attack by those bird things.
The city defenders launched a massive counterattack. And many groups, they're refusing to help. They are retreating.
What? Ravax shouted, but before his words could finish, the roar of engines filled his ears. He spun around. It was the hard cell interstellar transport, rising from the ground on a spike of fire.
Cordo Fain!
He growled.
You stinking coward!
The beast lunged onto Rancor's back, clawing and biting, ripping into the machine. Ravax growled, spinning his torso and throwing the creature off.
Armor integrity 78%. Structural integrity 75%.
Rancor reported.
It bites, but it won't break us!
Ravax roared, activating both flamers. Streams of fire erupted from Rancor's arms, turning the ground beneath them into a wall of searing heat. The monster recoiled from the flames, then bolted, clearly afraid. Moments later, gunships arrived, opening fire on the horde. Bodies of avian barbarians fell in streaks of blue and crimson bolts as explosions tore through the ranks. Ravax threw back his head and laughed, a booming, victorious roar.
Tremble before me, for I am Ravax the Red!
He bellowed, stepping forward, emboldened by the presence of his gunships. But his elation was cut short.
Sir, new contacts in the air! Tau attack craft!
Sazak's voice crackled over the comms, sharp with alarm.
Impossible!
Ravax growled.
Tau don't have starfighters! We saw their airfields and spaceport. They were empty!
They had to hide them. They're bombing the eastern camp. Wait, where?
Oh shit! They're making a run on the hard cell!
Ravax looked up, just in time to see uniquely shaped Tau starfighters swooped in. They lined up their shots with terrifying precision, firing 6 missiles straight at the massive Techno-Union ship. Flames erupted as the missiles struck above fuel cells. Fuel tanks ruptured, engines failed, and the ship plummeted. Ravax's eyes widened.
Everybody down!
He roared, digging Rancor's claws into the ground. The hard cell slammed into Furious Net with a thunderous explosion, turning the evening sky as bright as midday. A mushroom cloud of fire and ash rose, shaking the earth. Wood and shrapnel pinged off Rancor's armor. Gunships were tossed from the air, several spiraled out of control, crashing in screaming fireballs. Rancor steadied itself, and Ravax's gaze snapped to the mushroom cloud, just in time to see blue rounds slam into the remaining gunships. Tau interceptors weaved through the sky, dodging fire while raining destruction on his forces.
Bastards! All of them!
Ravax bellowed.
Where did they hide those damn starfighters?
A thunderous roar split the air. The damnable avian beast, the great Narlock, charged once more. Ravax had enough. His cool gone completely, replaced by burning fury. The monster leapt, aiming for Rancor, but the great mech claw shot out, seizing it by the throat. The mighty beak snapped inches from the cockpit.
A beast won't bring me low!
Ravax spat, driving his second claw into the creature's gut. Flesh and muscle tore under the metal hand. The great Knarlock screeched, thrashing in agony. Rancor's roar echoed as it slammed the monster into the ground, activating both flamers. Fire engulfed the warbeast, scorching feathers and sinew alike. The creature struggled, but it was no match for the mechanical colossus. Ravax held it in place, savoring its screams as they dwindled into dying whimpers. With a mighty heave, Rancor lifted the monster high, and with crushing force, ripped it in two. Blood and entrails showered the ground and the mech as the life of great Narlock ended in agony. At the sight of the great warbeast's death, the overcrewed retreated, though not far. Ravax wanted to chase them down, but the voice of Sazak pulled him back to the present. Boss, Eastern Camp has fallen. We lost contact with Rozak. Situation isn't much better at the other landing zones. Sazak hesitated. But we have a bigger problem. Something entered the system.
What something?
Ravax demanded.
I have no idea, sir. I've never seen anything like it.
Sazak stammered.
Here, see for yourself.
The scanner readouts flickered on the screens. Ravax frowned. The object was gigantic, well over 7 kilometers long, more than 2 wide, and almost as tall. Then he noticed the plasma fire tracing the giant form. He understood. It wasn't an object. It was a ship. As if to confirm it, a transmission reached them, spoken in Galactic Basic with a clear accent. Enemies of the Tau Commonwealth and her allies. My name is Francisca Dominica Blackthorn, rogue trader, lady protector, and captain of Herald of Profit. She announced, "You attacked my allies and business partners, which makes you my enemies. Run for your lives, or die by my hand." The transmission cut out. He tried to think of any solution when, to Ravak's horror, the plasma fires intensified as the gigantic ship accelerated. Ravak's options narrowed to one decision. "Sound the retreat!" he ordered, moving towards the transport that had brought Rancor to the surface. "Evacuate everyone you can! I want to leave this system before that ship gets too close! Do you understand me?" Yes, boss," his lieutenant answered in a trembling voice. I will coordinate the retreat."
"You'd better do it quickly. We are suddenly out of time."
Ravak cursed under his breath as he cut the connection. He stepped into the transport and, with a few clicks, locked Rancor in place. His eyes drifted to WILD Jade, the defiant city that had withstood his wrath.
"This isn't over, Truestrike,"
he muttered.
"You and your empire won this battle, but in the end, I will feast on your flesh."
He vowed it to himself as the transport's doors closed and it lifted into the sky. Francesca Dominica Blackthorn sat on her command throne, surveying her bridge. Her glorious purple uniform, woven with silver and gold threads from the finest materials, fit her perfectly. At her feet, two alien cats, Rex and Vigil, lounged quietly, ever alert and ready to defend their mistress. Her crew occupied their battle stations, eyes on displays and consoles, while the great hologram showed the entirety of the system. But Francesca's focus was on Furious Ned, her target, and the brazen pirate raid that had struck her allies. "Fang's eclipse detected, my lady," reported Sebastian Nawrocki, master of Auspex. "It's heavily damaged, but in stable orbit." He paused for a moment, scanning for more data. "I'm also detecting a significant number of unidentified ships. Scans indicate... Golden Throne! My lady, there are over 100 ships in orbit!" Francesca arched an eyebrow, intrigued. "Size and classification, Mr. Nawrocki? What exactly are we dealing with?" she asked, raising her half-empty glass of wine. Her pyromancer, Magnar Flamethorn, with his blazing hair and beard as fiery as the flames he commanded, quickly refilled it. A moment later, Sebastian chuckled, shaking his head. "Oh, now this is a joke and a half," he said. "My lady, none of those ships come close to the size of an escort. The largest is only 1.1 kilometers long. Everything else is smaller, some even smaller than heavy cargo shuttles we use routinely." "Still," Master of Ordnance Gaius Ventor interjected, stroking his majestic moustache. "Over 100 ships, regardless of size, can be dangerous. Even the mightiest beast can be felled by enough small cats." I would advise caution, Lady Captain. We know little of the ordnance they might employ in this galaxy.
True enough, Rogue Trader said, sipping her wine. But I doubt we need to worry this time. Fali, remind everyone what our crude allies told you. The thin-robed astropath inclined her head and spoke, her voice quiet but clear. Those are pirates. A pirate alliance, more precisely, united to strike at an exposed colony. The astropath explained. Exactly, Francesca said, a gleam of triumph in her eyes. And seeing that we are detecting tau frequencies coming from the planet, it seems that even with overwhelming numbers, they failed to defeat our blue-skinned allies. She grinned, her voice carrying across the bridge. Mr. Kali, give me the Vox. Full broadcast on all available frequencies. Activate translation matrix and set it to Galactic Basic. Lexor Prim Kali, an elderly gentleman who looked as if he had spent decades in the cult of a machine god, bowed and moved to execute her orders with his three mechanical arms. Moments later he turned, bowed deeply, and spoke in a raspy voice.
Vox ready, Lady Captain.
Francesca Dominica Blackthorn stood tall, her dark skin catching the starlight, her deep purple coat fluttering and gold and silver threads glinting. She seized the throne Vox and spoke with fiery authority. Enemies of the Tau Commonwealth and her allies, my name is Francesca Dominica Blackthorn, Rogue Trader, Lady Protector, and Captain of Herald of Profit. She announced, You attacked my allies and business partners, which makes you my enemies. Run for your lives, or die by my hand. She set the Vox down. Cut the transmission, Mr. Nawrocki, another active sensor ping. Let's make sure they see us coming.
By your will, Lady Captain,
her officer replied, moving quickly to comply.
A bold move, my lady,
Magnar commented, raising a single furry brow.
Sure it will work?
Oh, please, Magnar. She rolled her eyes. We fought pirates before. You know how they think. There is no loyalty to allies or cause, only to survival and profit. When faced with my Herald of Profit, they will do one of two things. Either charge me recklessly without plan or formation and be wiped out, or...
The enemy is scattering, my lady,
the master of Auspex interrupted.
They are making a run for it.
Francesca glanced at Magnar, sharing a knowing smile. He returned it with a small nod. She set her wine glass aside, drew a deep breath, and her eyes sharpened with resolve. Hellsman, full speed ahead, she commanded.
Understood! Full speed ahead! Maximum burn!
The Hellsman shouted. Moments later, the mighty Herald of Profit shuddered as its gargantuan engines flared with blinding intensity. Francesca smiled, feeling her flagship surged forward, imagining the faces of the pirates as they beheld it in all its glory. An ancient grand cruiser from the Age of Strife, restored by the Blackthorn dynasty, serving under the Black Rose for 5 millennia. Now it charged the pitiful pirates, who did not even have a single corvette to their name. Just a swarm of tiny ships, like flies before a titan. Master Ventor, prepare Deptor's End. "Fire when ready," Francesca commanded, her voice sharp and commanding.
"My lady, we are not yet in optimal range,"
he countered.
"And frankly, I doubt we will hit anything. Those ships are very small."
"The goal is not to hit them, but to frighten them into blind panic," she replied coolly, her eyes gleaming. "I want them to flee so quickly, so desperately, that they will abandon their own people on the surface, which will give us, and the Tau, prisoners to interrogate."
"Understood, my lady. Preparing Debtor's End,"
he said, moving to his command console.
"Ready to fire in 1 minute."
Francesca nodded, then turned to her right, where a man in the marshal's uniform of her personal army awaited. War was his trade, evident from the number of cybernetics decorating his body. 2 of his limbs were nothing but cold steel, and half of his face was mechanical. Yet, she smiled at him warmly, and he smiled back. "Kyle, my love, prepare our ground forces. After we deal with the fleet, you will help mop out the pirates abandoned on the surface," she said, her tone softening, a playful twinkle in her eye. "If you bring me back something nice, I might reward you." The fleshy half of the old veteran's cybernetic-enhanced face flushed crimson.
"Not in front of everyone, Frankie,"
he whispered, embarrassed. Francesca giggled, showing her white teeth. "I can't help myself. You are so easy to tease and fluster, my dear." Magnar stifled a chuckle and looked away, while Kyle's face grew even redder.
"Don't you dare laugh, you oversized matchstick," he hissed. "Or I swear I will put you in the freezer on level 12B.
Magnar managed to stop himself from giggling, but couldn't help smiling. Kyle glared at him. Their staring contest ended when Gaius Ventor cleared his throat.
"Debtor's End, ready, firing."
A brilliant lance of purple light shot from beneath the ship's prow where the massive lance cannon sat. The beam tore into the swarm of pirate vessels and actually hit something.
"Hit confirmed. Enemy ship destroyed,"
Nawrocki reported.
"One of the larger ones, almost 800 meters long. That was close to the biggest ship in the fleet."
That's the bastard I tried to hit," Gaius growled.
"I thought our best chance to hit something from this distance was to aim for the biggest target."
"Well, either way, it made them move,"
the master of Auspex observed.
"They are breaking formation and scattering. My lady, some of them are making jumps. We won't catch many at this speed."
Rulf Oxtar, the Hellsman, commented. "Doesn't matter," Francesca said dismissively. "Our goal was to rescue our allies and force the pirates to run, and we've done both." She exhaled with satisfaction. "Besides, I'm sure our Tau allies will be able to take care of things after the victory." She turned her head toward the figure behind her throne. "Wouldn't you agree?" A tall woman in black robes smiled beneath her hood. Her white hair and pale complexion were visible even in shadow. A veil covered her eyes completely, yet Francesca knew she was being watched. "Yes, my lady," the woman said in a calm, soothing voice. "Everything is as I predicted, and soon the winds of fate will propel the Tau to new expansion, one from which the Blackthorns will profit greatly." "I hope so," Francesca said,
reclining back into her throne. But, Prophet aside, I came to the rescue of Fang's Eclipse because they are valuable allies. I would have come here, promise of Prophet or not. The hooded oracle smiled faintly. As you say, my lady, as you say. Her unseen eyes tracked a crimson vessel at the edge of a gravity well as it blinked out of existence. Her voice dropped to a whisper, meant for no one but herself. Some events are hard to avoid, and some paths must be walked. And there are some monsters that must live, so greater monsters may die. Well, hello there, my dear viewers and listeners. I do hope you enjoyed this episode and the little surprise twist by the end. The entire battle was quite a challenge. I tried to depict it from several perspectives, but also not to overwhelm you with different characters and storylines, to the point that we would be stuck here for who knows how long. I desperately wanted to avoid the mistake made by a fan with too much time, where he tried to show the battle from every possible perspective. As you probably noticed, I tried to limit the perspectives we follow, and I wasn't afraid of killing off the characters we were following, in order to keep the story engaging, yet still moving forward. And I would lie if I told you I wasn't tempted to tell more stories. I had an idea to have civilian POV of them experiencing the attack, hiding in shelter, and being enslaved. But decided it would be too much, so I cut the idea completely. I hope the final result was to your liking. I once again extend my thanks to Cartulio and Tia Boba for voicing my characters. I direct similar thanks to 3D Vincents, Hayden Lumpkin, and Kubik Kuratko for creating art for my series. You are all truly wonderful. Now, another important thing. I made a decision to not extend my CapCut subscription, even though we did manage to gather enough funds through Ko-fi, which is absolutely insane. Why I made this decision? I found cheaper alternative. A year-long subscription of CapCut costs like $360, more or less, when Filmora perpetual subscription costs only $80. So that's a bit of a difference. I was ready to pay $60 out of $360, but with my decision to switch to Filmora, I will pay $20, supporters will pay $60, which means the remaining $240 from $300 you have gathered will, and partially already was, redirected to fund new art pieces, some of which you saw in this episode. And though Filmora is relatively easy to use and similar to CapCut, I will have to relearn a few things, so if quality of my videos will drop slightly, I apologize. I just felt it wouldn't be fair for me to call for my supporters in years' time to gather another bag of money for another year-long subscription if I can get a perpetual license much lower price. I'm telling you all of this for the sake of transparency and honesty. And of course, if you want to support me, be it my livelihood directly through Patreon or donate to the art budget on Ko-fi, I encourage you to do so. Now I will be somewhat repeating myself, but here is for those who missed it. Because people were asking for it, The Star Wars x Warhammer 40k story is also available in written form on several forums and sites. More precisely, the old episodes. You can read all the way to 3 episodes behind for free. If you want up to 1 episode behind, you need to become $1 tier supporter on Patreon. And the current scripts are only available to the highest tier supporters. As for which sites I'm posting on, Fanfiction, Archive of Our Own, Space Battles, and Sufficient Velocity. Some of the art pieces and maps are available there as well, so do check it out. All links in the description and pinned comment below. And now, for the very last thing. As promised, Q&A under this video. 1 question per person, no more, no less. If you are lucky, I will answer it. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most critical day. Ta-ta!